My name is Clara Wynn, and I'm 32 years old. I teach high school English. Nothing glamorous, but I've always loved stories. Maybe that's why I believed in happy endings, even when my own life kept rewriting itself without my consent. 3 years ago, my sister Emma and her fiancé Jared hit a rough patch. They were drowning in debt, juggling bills, and pretending everything was fine. I could see it, the exhaustion behind Emma's smile, the way Jared avoided talking about money. They were too proud to ask for help, so I offered before they had to. At first, it felt good. I told myself I was doing what any loving sister would. Just for a few months, I said, transferring $800 every month to help with their mortgage and utilities. I was making a modest teacher's salary, living alone in a small apartment, but I didn't mind tightening my belt a little. Family first, always. Months turned into years. Vacations disappeared. Dinners out became rare. I stopped buying new clothes unless absolutely necessary. I'd tell myself, they need this more than I do. They'll get back on their feet soon. But soon never came. Then came the wedding's announcement. I thought, finally, a turning point. Maybe they'd tell me they didn't need help anymore. Instead, Emma called one evening, her tone sugary sweet. Clara, we're trying to keep the wedding small, but there are so many expenses. Could you maybe help a little with the florist or venue deposit? I froze, coffee halfway to my lips. Emma, I already send you $800 every month. I can't do more than that. Silence stretched through the phone line. She didn't argue, but the distance between us grew after that call. For the first time, I felt used. 2 months later came Dad's birthday, the kind of loud, chaotic family gathering where the air smells like barbecue and nostalgia. Grandma's house was full of laughter, squealing kids, and that faint scent of lemon polish she loved. I remember setting the dessert tray down when she touched my arm. Clara, honey, can we talk outside for a moment? Her voice was soft but urgent. I followed her out to the porch where the cicadas hummed and the laughter inside blurred into a distant buzz. She looked around, making sure no one could hear us. Then she said something that changed everything. They made fun of you, sweetheart. I blinked. Who? Emma and Jared, she said, her voice almost trembling. They laughed about how much you give up for them. Said you'll never have a family of your own, that you're wasting your life helping others. The world tilted a little. The words didn't shout. They sank, slow and heavy, straight into my chest. I just stared at her, stunned. Are you sure? Grandma nodded. Her eyes were full of that sad wisdom that only comes from seeing too much. You're a good woman, Clara, but being good doesn't mean letting people use you. I couldn't speak. The porch light flickered, and for the first time in years, I felt something inside me harden. Not anger, exactly, but resolve. Inside, Emma's laughter carried from the kitchen, bright, careless, unaware. Jared poured himself another drink, chatting with Dad like nothing in the world was wrong. I forced a smile when I walked back in. I hugged Mom, helped clear plates, even clinked glasses with Jared when we toasted Dad's health. No one knew that everything had changed for me in those few minutes outside. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles. My grandmother's words kept echoing. You don't have to let them treat you like this. I realized she wasn't just talking about Emma and Jared. She was talking about a pattern, a lifetime of me shrinking so others could stand taller. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee, and sat at my small kitchen table, staring at my budget spreadsheet. Line by line, I saw the proof of every sacrifice I'd made. Trips canceled, savings untouched, dreams delayed. It hit me then. I'd built my life around other people's needs, and the ones I'd tried to save were laughing behind my back. That was the morning something in me shifted. No drama, no angry calls, just quiet clarity. They thought I was weak. Fine. Let them learn what strength looks like when the money stops coming in. As the steam from my coffee curled upward, I whispered to myself, Enough, Clara, no more. I didn't realize it then, but that decision would unravel years of imbalance, expose secrets buried deep in our family's history, and force me to face truths I'd been avoiding for far too long. And it all started with one word that I finally learned to say, no. The morning after Dad's birthday, I didn't explode. I didn't text paragraphs or demand apologies. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and stared at the small kingdom where I had always tried to be responsible. A spreadsheet with neat boxes and tidy promises, savings, rent, groceries, and a line item that had quietly eaten years of my life, $800 sent to Emma and Jared every month, like tithing to a God that never answered. I closed the spreadsheet. The answer was simple now. No speeches, no theatrics. I would stop. A week passed. I taught my classes, graded essays, and smiled at teenagers wrestling with metaphors and futures. My life clicked back into its own rhythm. Late buses, paper cuts, lukewarm coffee. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living with myself instead of in service to someone else. Then Emma called. Her voice was syrupy smooth, the way it gets when she wants something. "Hey, sis, just checking in. How are my favorite students?" She launched into wedding chatter, flowers, guest lists, and a caterer who just didn't understand her vision. I let her talk. Finally, like a shoe dropping softly, she said, "Oh, Jared was wondering if you could send this month's, a little early. We've got a few things coming up." I stared out the window at a flat gray sky. "Yeah, about that." Silence hummed. "I'm going through some things myself," I said steady. "I won't be able to send money this month." A pause, not shock. Calculation. "Just this month, right? We can count on next month?" "I don't know, Emma. I've been helping for 3 years. I might need to focus on my own situation for a while." Her breath tightened through the receiver. "Clara, are you serious? We're counting on this." I swallowed, and for a moment the porch light from Grandma's house flickered in my memory. "They made fun of you." "Yeah," I said softly, "and I was counting on my family not laughing behind my back." Silence. Longer this time, sharper. She didn't ask what I meant. She gave me a stiff, crisp "okay," then ended the call. The quiet afterward felt different. Not peace. Space. A widening room inside me where I could finally stand upright. 2 weeks passed. I didn't hear from Emma. I heard about her. Mom called one evening, voice braced for conflict. "Clara, I just spoke to Emma. She says you stopped helping them with bills. What's going on?" I leaned against the counter, watching the kettle steam. "Mom, I've sent them $800 a month for 3 years. I don't owe them more of my life." "They're family," she said reflexively. And then I heard her sigh, defeated. "Emma said you've been distant." "Did she mention the part where they made fun of me? Where they joked I'd never have a family? That I'm wasting my time helping them?" The words came out cool, not cruel, like I'd rehearsed them. Silence stretched on her end. "What are you talking about?" "Grandma told me," I said. "At Dad's party, outside on the porch." The pot bubbled over. I moved it from the stove. Mom was quiet for a long beat. Then her voice softened, threaded with regret. "Clara, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You've done more than anyone could ask. If that's how they've treated you, I understand." Oddly, her support didn't feel like vindication. It felt like the first honest breath in months. The next call wasn't so gentle. "Jared." "Clara," he began, forced friendly. "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Is that right?" I said, tasting steel. "We never said anything bad about you. You've been amazing. If you heard something, it was twisted. You know how old folks exaggerate." I let the insult hang there like a stain on linen. "So Grandma made it up?" He faltered. No. I mean, if she heard something, it probably got... Look, we appreciate you. We're under a lot of pressure." "Jared," I said flat, "I'm done with the money. I hope the wedding goes well." I hung up before he could glue more polite lies together. That's when the grapevine did what it does best. Mom mentioned to Aunt Laura that I'd been supporting Emma and Jared for years. Word traveled through cousins, through kitchen whispers, and text threads. By the time it reached a small family gathering I wasn't at, Aunt Laura, famous for Mercy's sharp twin, Truth, let it rip. I only heard it secondhand, but the picture was vivid. "You let Clara pay your bills for 3 years," she reportedly snapped at Emma. "And now you're playing the victim? Are you serious?" That night, Emma called, her voice lit with fury. "What the hell, Clara? Did you tell everyone about the money?" "No," I said calmly. "I told one person who loves me. You brought the rest on yourself." "Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is?" she hissed. "Emma," I said, and this time I let the fatigue into my voice. "I think embarrassment is the least of your problems. Maybe ask yourself why you thought it was okay to treat me like a joke." She didn't answer. She hung up. The days that followed had a brittle quality, like the air before a storm. I saw Jared in the school parking lot one afternoon. He'd waited for me. He tried for diplomatic. Rage pulsed beneath every word. "Emma's been crying nonstop. People are turning against us," he said. "We want to make things right." "Oh?" I asked. "After 3 years of taking my money and laughing?" "It wasn't like that." Then how was it? I cut in. Explain how mocking the person keeping your lights on isn't meant to hurt. He had no answer, just a stiff jaw and the fragile insistence that it was all a misunderstanding. He left without convincing either of us. That night, Dad called. He rarely waded into family mess, which meant it was serious. Clara, he said, voice careful, I talked to Emma and Jared. They're struggling. They say they regret the way they treated you. That's nice, I said, even. I'm not interested in fixing anything. They need to fix themselves. He sighed. You're not wrong. You've been generous. Maybe just sit down with them, clear the air. Not to go back, just to close this the right way. I thought about it. I'll consider it, I said. But inside, the answer was already no. Forgiveness without responsibility is just permission to repeat. A week later, a handwritten invitation arrived. Emma's script, looping and careful. Coffee? Family meeting? Curiosity walked me into it. The cafe was nearly empty, all honeyed light and clinking cups. Emma looked polished, Jared appropriately solemn. The apology came first, smooth, practiced, like a speech with the edges sanded down. We're sorry, Emma said. We shouldn't have said what we said. Would you have apologized if Grandma hadn't told me? I asked. A beat too long. Of course, Jared said quickly. I stared until the veneer cracked. Right. Then came the true purpose. We need a favor, Emma said softly. I almost laughed. Let me guess. Money. Not exactly, she said. We need you to co-sign a loan, just to refinance the house. Better rate. You wouldn't have to pay anything. I blinked once. Twice. You want me to put my name on your decisions after everything that's happened? Emma flushed. We're trying to make things right. You don't fix things by asking for bigger favors, I said. You fix things by taking responsibility. Jared's hand smacked the table. Small thunder in a quiet room. You're being unreasonable. We're family. I stood, pushing my chair in with a soft click. Exactly. And family doesn't treat each other like dirt. I dropped a few dollars for coffee and walked out into clean air. The storm broke the next morning, not with rain, but with a phone call. Clara, honey, Grandma said, voice tight. Can you come over? I have something to show you. I paused on my doorstep, keys in hand, a slow thud beginning behind my ribs. The last time we'd stood together in a doorway, she'd handed me the truth like a blade and taught me how to hold it without cutting myself. I'll be there, I said. I didn't know it yet, but the thing she was about to reveal would tilt our family history, shift the ground again beneath all of us, and force Emma and Jared to look in a mirror they'd avoided for years. This time, I wouldn't look away. Grandma's house always smelled like cedar and lemon oil, old books, and steady love. When I stepped inside, she was waiting in her reading chair, a soft cardigan wrapped around her shoulders, the afternoon light turning her silver hair to threads of white gold. She smiled faintly. I was going through some of your grandfather's old things, she said, and I found something I think it's time you saw. She led me into her study. On the oak desk sat an old family photo album, edges worn, corners frayed like something that had lived through generations of hands. She flipped it open. Snapshots of simpler days spilled out. Emma and I as kids, eating snow cones on the porch. Jared in the background, lanky and awkward, pretending not to like my sister yet. Then Grandma stopped at a yellowed envelope tucked between the pages. My name was written on the front in elegant cursive, Clara. I looked up at her. What is this? Read it, she said softly. The paper crackled as I unfolded it. The handwriting was my grandfather's, the man who'd passed before I turned 5, whose stories had always been told in gentle reverence but never detail. To my grandchildren, this trust shall be divided equally among you, unless one is found to have abused the family bond for personal gain. The letter was dated over 20 years ago, before I was even born. I read it twice, then a third time. Grandma, I whispered, is this real? She nodded, eyes steady. Yes. Your grandfather set up a trust fund. The money was never meant to be a reward. It was a reminder. He wanted fairness and integrity. I blinked hard. Who knows about this? No one, she said. Not your parents, not Emma, not Jared, only me. Until now. The air felt heavy with something ancient. Not money, but meaning. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. She leaned closer. Because you need to understand something. You are not the failure they make you out to be. You've worked hard, sacrificed for others, and done it without fanfare. That's what this family should honor, not entitlement. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I don't even care about the money, Grandma. I know, she said. That's why you deserve it. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked softly in the corner, each second deepening the silence. I looked down at the letter again. The fragile ink, the moral condition written in my grandfather's hand, unless one is found to have abused the family bond. A strange mix of sadness and vindication washed over me. Maybe life really did keep its own kind of balance. Maybe this was the universe's quiet way of saying, I saw everything. When I left Grandma's that day, the late sun painted the trees gold. I drove home with the letter folded carefully in my bag, my mind turning like a wheel, past the betrayal, past the anger, toward something colder and cleaner. Clarity. Over the next week, the family grapevine did what it always did best. Emma and Jared's situation unraveled fast. Jared's work hours were cut, wedding payments bounced, their mortgage came due, and without my monthly support, their picture-perfect life began to crack around the edges. They tried to reach me, first politely, then desperately. I didn't respond. Then the guilt campaign began. Cousins called. My mother sighed over the phone. Emma's been crying, she said. They're struggling. I wanted to feel pity, but I only felt tired. Mom, I said, you can't save people from the consequences of their own choices. By the end of the month, the whole family knew. Aunt Laura, ever the blunt instrument of justice, confronted Emma again at a brunch. This time, I heard the story firsthand from Mom, who sounded half horrified, half impressed. You let Clara carry you for 3 years, Laura had snapped. And now you're furious she stopped? That's not struggle, Emma. That's selfishness. Emma apparently left in tears. Jared stormed out after her. The next day, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. When I answered, his voice was tight and polite. Clara, Jared here. Listen, I think we've gotten off track. We never meant for any of this to happen. I exhaled slowly. Jared, the problem isn't what you meant. It's what you did. He hesitated. We want to start over. No bad blood. We'll handle things differently. Good, I said. Then handle them without me. And I hung up. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, the letter open on my lap again. The streetlights shimmered below like a scattering of gold dust. I thought about the strange justice of it all, how people reveal themselves when the faucet turns off. And I thought of Grandpa's line again, unless one is found to have abused the family bond. The words felt like prophecy. I wasn't sure what Grandma planned to do with the trust fund, but something told me the truth had a way of finding its moment, like a storm waiting over still water. I could feel it coming, and when it did, I wouldn't run from it. Not this time. 2 weeks later, I came home from work to find a crisp white envelope slipped under my door. My name was written across the front in looping handwriting I recognized instantly, Emma. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Can we meet for coffee? Just talk, please. I almost laughed. After everything, the gossip, the guilt, the mockery, she wanted coffee. But curiosity, that stubborn ember I could never quite smother, won again. So I went. The cafe near their house was nearly empty that morning, soft jazz humming under the smell of burnt espresso. Emma sat at a corner table, her hair pinned neatly, her smile too bright to be real. Jared sat beside her, fingers tapping restlessly against his cup. Clara, she said, like we were meeting after years apart, not weeks after betrayal. I'm so glad you came. Let's skip the small talk, I said gently. What's this about? She inhaled, steadying herself. We owe you an apology, both of us. Jared nodded too fast. We shouldn't have said those things. It was wrong. I studied them. How their eyes darted to each other before every sentence. How rehearsed it sounded. Would you have apologized, I asked, if Grandma hadn't told me? Their silence said everything. Clara, Emma said quickly, we're trying to make things right, but we need a little help. There it was, the real reason. Go on, I said. It's not money, she rushed. Just, we need you to co-sign a loan for the house. It'll lower our rate. You wouldn't have to pay anything. It's just paperwork. I nearly choked on my coffee. You're serious? Emma's smile faltered. You're our only chance. You have stable credit and... You want me to put my name on another one of your problems? I said slowly. After you spent 3 years treating me like a walking bank account? We're family, Jared snapped, hand slamming the table hard enough to rattle the cups. I stood, slipping a few dollars under my saucer. Exactly, I said. And family doesn't treat each other like dirt. And I walked out, leaving the smell of burnt coffee and desperation behind me. 3 days later, the real explosion came. Grandma called, Her voice trembled with something between fury and disbelief. Clara, honey, they went to a lawyer. I froze. What? They found out about the trust, somehow. They're claiming you hid family assets from them. They say you withheld information. For a moment, the world went white. Not fear, but stunned disbelief. Grandma, that's insane, I said. You were the one who showed me that letter. I didn't even know it existed until you... I know, she interrupted gently. They're desperate, Clara, but this is low, even for them. I pressed my hand to my forehead, pulse pounding. Let them try. I'm not afraid of the truth. But still, I felt something crackle in the air, the way lightning does before it strikes. Over the next few days, the calls came in waves. Mom, frantic. Dad, exasperated. Aunt Laura, delighted. They're accusing you of hiding a trust fund, she said, barely containing a laugh. Good luck to them. If stupidity were currency, they'd be rich. I tried to laugh, but there was a part of me that felt the sting, not because of the lawsuit, but because I had loved them once, and love makes betrayal echo louder. A week later, I received another envelope, this one official, from a law firm. My hands didn't shake when I opened it, maybe because by then I'd stopped expecting anything decent from them. But the letter inside was unexpected. Our clients, Emma and Jared, have decided to withdraw their claim. They wish to settle the matter privately. Withdraw? Just like that? I called Grandma immediately. Did you talk to them? No, she said, voice unreadable, but I heard something. Apparently, karma had impeccable timing. Jared had been quietly embezzling small amounts from his job for months. Tiny transfers, unnoticed until recently. Someone had anonymously tipped off his employer. He'd been fired on the spot. Their loan application? Rejected. Their wedding vendors? Demanding refunds? Their finances? Shattered. Grandma's tone was calm when she told me. I didn't lift a finger, Clara. Neither did you. Life just balanced the scales. I sat there in stunned silence, the letter from the law firm still open on my table. For the first time, I realized that sometimes revenge isn't necessary. Truth has its own quiet gravity. 2 nights later, I came home to find Emma pacing in front of my building, her mascara smudged, her posture crumbling under invisible weight. Clara, please, she said as soon as I stepped out of the car. I didn't know Jared was going to do the lawsuit thing. I swear, he panicked. I folded my arms. And you didn't stop him. I tried, She stopped, eyes glossy. Everything's falling apart. The wedding's off. Jared moved out. I don't know what to do. I wanted to feel pity. I really did. But there's a difference between compassion and self-sabotage. Maybe, I said quietly, you'd know what to do if you hadn't spent years depending on everyone else. She looked down, shame flickering across her face. You're right, she whispered. But I don't have anyone else now. That's not true, I said. You still have you. Her eyes lifted, pleading, broken. So that's it? You're just going to cut me off? I shook my head slowly. No, Emma, you cut me off. When you laughed at me. When you tried to take from me again and again, I'm just finally accepting it. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I turned, walked inside, and didn't look back. Later that night, Grandma called again. I heard she came to see you, she said softly. You okay? I think so, I said. It hurts, but it's cleaner now, like ripping off a bandage. Grandma exhaled, and then, almost casually, she added, I've decided something about the trust. What do you mean? If Emma and Jared can't show responsibility or respect, they won't receive their share. I'll make sure of it. I've already spoken to the lawyer. I sat there speechless. Grandma, I don't want the money. I know, she said, a smile in her voice. That's why you deserve it. The next morning, sunlight poured across my apartment floor, and for the first time in years, I didn't wake up with dread. I brewed my coffee, opened the curtains, and stood still for a while. No buzzing phone, no obligations, no silent guilt. In the distance, I could hear the faint hum of the city, people rushing, lives overlapping. For me, everything had slowed down, finally in rhythm with my own heart. The storm had passed, but the sky wasn't empty. Somewhere in that quiet space between loss and freedom, something new was waiting to grow. The days that followed were quiet, too quiet. After the storm, silence can feel suspicious, like the air itself is waiting to see what you'll do next. I woke early, graded papers, and walked to work through the golden haze of late autumn. The air smelled of rain and leaves, the kind of bittersweet scent that makes you both nostalgic and free. For the first time in years, I wasn't budgeting for someone else's crisis. My mind felt uncluttered. Still, the peace didn't come without its echoes. Sometimes at night, I'd replay Emma's voice in my head, her panic, her apologies, her disbelief that I could really say no. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Then, one Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't blocked yet. Mom. Clara, she said softly. Emma's moved back home. Jared's gone. Your father and I didn't want to tell you, but she's having a rough time. I stared out the window, watching sunlight scatter across the wall. I figured as much. She misses you, Mom added carefully. Maybe you could call? Just talk? I let the silence hang long enough that we both understood the answer. I can't, Mom. Not yet. I need distance. She sighed, not disappointed, but resigned. I understand, sweetheart. Boundaries are hard, but sometimes they're holy. Her words stayed with me for the rest of the day. A week later, I stopped by Grandma's house again. The air smelled of cinnamon and paper. She was baking and sorting documents, her two favorite hobbies. When she saw me, she smiled. My brave girl, she said, pressing a warm cookie into my hand. I talked to the lawyer. It's done. I blinked. What's done? The trust, she said simply. Emma and Jared are no longer included. I gave them a chance to show growth, but all they showed was greed. The trust will go to you and your cousins instead. I stared at her. Grandma, you didn't have to do that for me. I didn't do it for you, she said gently. I did it for what's right. Your grandfather's words were clear. Integrity matters more than blood. Something in me cracked open. Not sadness, not triumph, just the ache of realizing that someone had finally seen all of me. You've always given, Clara, she said, her wrinkled hand covering mine. Now it's time for life to give back. In the following months, the family slowly settled into new rhythms. Emma stayed quiet. No calls, no texts, no appearances at family dinners. Dad pretended not to take sides, but I saw the way his eyes softened when he looked at me. Mom, for once, didn't try to mediate. And Grandma, well, she remained the steady anchor, holding all our stories together. One evening, Aunt Laura called out of the blue. Just ran into your mom, she said. She told me everything that's happened. And Clara, she chuckled, I'm proud of you. Proud? I asked, half laughing. You finally stopped letting people treat your kindness like weakness. That's no small thing. Her words sank deeper than I expected. Because the truth was, I hadn't realized how much I'd let myself shrink, how many years I'd spent apologizing for being generous. By spring, life looked different. My apartment felt lighter. I'd started saving again. I even planned a short trip to the mountains, something I hadn't done in years. One Saturday, while packing, I found the old letter again, the one my grandfather had written. The paper had gone even yellower with time, the ink faded, but the words still glowed with quiet power, unless one is found to have abused the family bond for personal gain. I smiled, folding it carefully back into its envelope. That letter wasn't about punishment. It was about balance, about learning when love becomes enabling, when kindness becomes captivity. Months later, on a cool evening in late May, I found myself walking past the old family home, the one Emma used to live in with Jared. The house was for sale now, the for sale sign tilted slightly in the wind. The porch light flickered, the same way it had that night when Grandma first told me the truth. I stood there for a while, watching the curtains sway behind the windows. I remembered Emma's laughter, the dinners I'd skipped to save money for her, the nights I'd justified her choices to myself. Then I whispered something I hadn't been able to before. I forgive you. Not because she'd earned it, but because I refused to carry the weight anymore. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't for her. It was my exit key. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. I made coffee, opened my balcony door, and watched the city stretch awake below. It was the same world, noisy, flawed, unpredictable, but I was different. I'd stopped expecting people to change just because I loved them. I'd stopped mistaking sacrifice for purpose. And somewhere deep inside, I heard my grandmother's voice again, soft but strong. You don't have to let them treat you like this. This time it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like freedom. I took one last sip of coffee, set the mug down, and smiled at the rising sun. Some ties break you, I whispered, until you learn to let them go. And for the first time in a long, long while, I truly did.